All right, so you're getting ready for an electrical drafter interview, and you want to ace it, right? We've got some great RoleCatcher resources here. This is going to be much more helpful than just like, skimming a job description.
Yeah.
Think of this deep dive as like your interview prep boot camp.
Yeah, we're going to break down those tricky questions, the skills you need to highlight, and we'll even give you a little peek into the world of electrical drafting itself. It's pretty cool stuff.
It is. But before we get into all that, let's make sure we're all on the same page. You're interviewing for a role that's kind of the backbone of everything. Buildings, the power grid, all the tech we use every day. As an electrical drafter, you're taking the engineer's ideas and turning them into, like, the blueprint to make it real.
You're basically the architect of the electrical world.
Exactly. And it's a field that's always evolving, especially now with all the focus on sustainability and energy efficiency.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be in this field.
So let's dive into some of those tough interview questions you might get hit with. How about we start with a classic? Can you describe your experience with AutoCAD?
Oh yeah, you're almost guaranteed to get that one. They want to know how comfortable you are with the software. It's like the essential tool for an electrical drafter.
So don't just say, oh, I'm good at it. Right.
Right. Give them some real examples. Show them what you can do.
Okay, so instead of saying, I used AutoCAD to design lighting systems, could I say something like, I used AutoCAD to create electrical schematics for a hospital renovation, and I made sure all the lighting systems met the latest safety codes. Would that be better?
Now you're talking. That shows you not only know how to use the software, but that you understand how important safety and compliance are. Plus, it gives them a much clearer picture of your skills.
It's like painting a picture with your words. And hey, RoleCatcher can help you practice answering this and other questions. It'll actually analyze your response and give you suggestions to make it even stronger.
It's like having a virtual interview coach right in your pocket.
All right, next question. How do you ensure accuracy in your electrical designs? Attention to detail has got to be super important here.
Right, absolutely. One little mistake in an electrical design can have some pretty serious consequences. You want to show them how meticulous you are, talk about your process for checking your work, like maybe using design guidelines or checklists, even mentioning that you collaborate with others to review designs. That shows you're a team player and that you understand the value of having another set of eyes on things.
Makes sense. So I could say something like, I always double check my calculations and refer to industry standards. And before I finish a design, I always have a colleague review it for a fresh perspective.
Perfect. Now, they might follow up with something like, can you tell me about a time you caught an error in someone else's work? Be ready with a specific example that shows off your attention to detail and how you work well with others.
Okay, so it's all about showing them you've got those eagle eyes. Got it. All right, here's another question that seems to come up a lot. How do you stay up to date with new electrical technologies and industry trends? They want to see that you're passionate about the field, right? That you're committed to learning and growing.
Exactly. This is your chance to show them your enthusiasm. Mention conferences and workshops you've attended, industry publications you read. Even following experts on social media shows you're engaged and interested in what's happening in the field.
So I could mention specific publications or online forums I participate in?
Absolutely. And be prepared for follow-up questions like, what's a recent technological advancement that you find exciting? Or how do you see this trend impacting the future of electrical drafting? Things like that.
They really want to see you thinking ahead.
Yeah, they want to see that you're not just stuck in the present. You're thinking about what's next.
Okay, so we've covered some of the more technical questions. Let's move on to those behavioral questions, the ones where they ask you to describe specific situations and how you handled them. Let's start with this one. Can you explain a time when you had to troubleshoot an electrical design issue?
This is where you get to show off your problem-solving skills. Have a specific example ready to go, like what was the issue, how did you figure out what was wrong, what steps did you take to fix it, and most importantly, what was the outcome?
So instead of just saying, I fixed the problem, I should walk them through the whole process, like how I analyzed the situation, what steps I took, all that.
Exactly. You want to highlight your analytical and problem-solving skills. Think STAR method: situation, task, action, result. It's a good way to structure your response and make sure you hit all the key points.
Got it. Okay, here's one that I think we've all faced at some point. Can you explain a time when you had to work with a difficult team member or client?
Yeah, the classic teamwork question. Remember, it's not about bad-mouthing the other person. It's about showing how you can handle challenging interpersonal dynamics. Focus on how you maintain professionalism, good communication, and how you found solutions.
So even if that teammate was driving me crazy, I shouldn't say anything negative about them in the interview.
Right, right. Focus on what you did, not on their flaws. Emphasize your ability to be a team player, even when things get tough. They might even ask you, what did you learn from that experience? Show them that you're self-aware and always looking for ways to improve your collaboration skills.
Okay, this has been a great warm-up.
Yeah, we've covered some good ground here.
We've tackled some of those trickier questions.
And we've given you some strategies to approach them, but we're not done yet.
Oh, there's more.
Oh yeah, we've got a lot more to cover. More questions, more insights, and we'll even dive into how RoleCatcher can give you that extra edge in your interview prep. So stay tuned. Okay, so let's jump back into those interview questions and give you even more strategies to really impress those hiring managers. You ready for round two?
I'm ready. Let's talk about adaptability. I feel like that's super important in any job, but especially in a field like electrical drafting. Things change so fast. So how should I answer something like, can you explain a time when you had to adapt to changes in a project scope or timeline?
Oh, you're right. Real-world projects, they almost never go exactly as planned. They want to see that you can roll with the punches, that you can handle those unexpected changes and adjust your approach without, completely freaking out.
Right. So, like, if the deadline for a project suddenly gets moved up, what then? I could talk about how I reorganize my workflow, maybe delegated tasks more effectively, and of course, communicated clearly with the team, all to make sure we hit that new deadline.
That's a great example. It shows you can think on your feet, that you know how to prioritize, and that you can collaborate effectively, even when things get a little stressful. They might even ask you something like, what was the biggest challenge you faced in adapting to this particular change? Or what did you learn from that whole experience?
Okay, so it's all about showing that you have a can-do attitude, even when things get a little crazy. Now, how about juggling multiple projects? I feel like that's just like the reality for most electrical drafters these days. How do you prioritize and manage multiple projects simultaneously?
Yeah, that one's all about organization and time management. They basically want to know that you can handle a busy workload and not let anything slip through the cracks. You need a system. Whether it's, some fancy project management methodology or just a really good to-do list, whatever works for you.
Okay, so I could talk about, like, maybe using a project management app to track deadlines and progress, or even just how I break down big projects into smaller, more manageable tasks.
Exactly. Paint them a picture of how you stay organized and make sure everything gets done on time. And, to the right standard. Be ready for those follow-up questions like, how do you decide which tasks are the most urgent? Or what do you do when project priorities conflict? Those are common ones.
Okay, good to know. Let's shift gears a bit and get a little more, technical. How should someone answer, can you explain a time when you had to design an electrical system for a complex project? I feel like that's a chance to really show off your expertise.
This is your time to shine. Really showcase those technical chops. Choose a project that highlights your skills and thought processes. Don't be afraid to get into the details a bit, but make sure you explain things clearly. The interviewer might not be an electrical engineer, make sure they can follow along.
So it's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Showcasing your knowledge, but making it understandable to someone who might not be as, deep in the technical weeds. Could RoleCatcher help me with that?
Absolutely. RoleCatcher can analyze your answer, make sure you're using clear and concise language so you can strike that perfect balance between technical depth and, making sure everyone's on the same page.
Awesome. Okay, let's talk about something that's super critical in this field, safety. How do you suggest someone answer? How do you ensure that your electrical designs are compliant with safety regulations and codes? I mean, there's no room for error when it comes to electrical systems.
You're absolutely right. Safety is paramount. You need to show them that you take it seriously, that you have a system in place for making sure your designs meet all those regulations. No cutting corners.
Right. So I should mention specific codes and standards that I'm familiar with. Maybe even describe how I, incorporate them into my design process right from the start.
Exactly. Safety is not an afterthought. It's got to be integrated into your whole workflow. Be ready for those follow-ups. They might ask, what's the most challenging safety regulation you've had to design for? Or how do you stay up to date on changes to safety codes? Those kinds of things.
All right. We talk about adapting to project changes, but what about those, unexpected challenges, the ones that seem to pop up on every project, no matter how well you plan? How do you handle unexpected changes or challenges in a project?
Yes. This is about your problem-solving skills, for
Mhm.
sure. And your ability to stay calm under pressure. They want to see that you can think on your feet, that you communicate well, you know, and that you can find solutions when things go sideways.
So even if I'm, internally freaking out because a crucial part is suddenly unavailable, I need to project that I got this attitude in the interview.
Exactly. Show them you're resourceful, you're solution-oriented, you don't panic easily. You could even talk about a time when you had to come up with a creative workaround or, brainstorm with the team to find a solution. They might ask, what was the most valuable lesson you learned from that experience? How did it help you grow?
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. But before we move on to the last part of our deep dive, I want to touch on something that the RoleCatcher Career Guide brought up. It's not just about prepping for an interview, right? It's about potentially starting a whole career. And it sounds like there are some exciting things happening in the field of electrical drafting.
Oh, absolutely. The world is becoming more and more electrified, and that means there's a growing need for skilled electrical drafters.
And it's not just about keeping the lights on. The guide mentioned that the industry is really focused on sustainability and energy efficiency these days.
That's a huge trend. People are more environmentally conscious, right? So they want electrical systems that are sustainable and energy efficient. Electrical drafters play a key role in designing those systems, minimizing energy waste, promoting a greener future.
Wow, that's pretty inspiring. It's not just a job, it's a chance to make a real difference. Speaking of making a difference, the guide also talked about career growth. It sounds like there are a lot of different paths you can take as an electrical drafter.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You might start as an entry-level drafter,
Oh.
but there's definitely room to grow. You could specialize in a certain area like power systems or renewable energy. You could even move into a management role or, go back to school and become an engineer. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
Okay, so there's real potential to build a career in this field. I'm ready to hear about those final interview questions. Bring it on. Okay, so we're in the home stretch now, the final part of our electrical drafter interview prep deep dive. We've talked about technical questions, those tricky behavioral questions. We even touched on some of the career paths you could take in this field.
Now it's time to, really seal the deal, give you those final tips and strategies to really wow those hiring managers. Remember that question about describing a complex project you worked on?
Yeah.
You might also ask something like, what's the most innovative electrical design you've ever worked on? Something along those lines.
Ooh, that's a good one. That feels like a chance to really show off your creativity and problem-solving skills.
Exactly. Pick a project that really highlights your ability to, think outside the box, come up with unique solutions, walk them through your thought process, the challenges you faced, and, what kind of impact your design had.
So it's not just about being a drafter, it's about being an innovator.
Right. Show them that you're pushing the boundaries a bit. Now, speaking of standing out, the RoleCatcher Guide mentions some certifications that can really boost your credentials. Do you think it's a good idea to bring those up in the interview?
That's a good question.
Yeah, certifications show potential employers that you're serious about your professional development and that you've taken the time to validate your skills, mentioning things like the AutoCAD certified professional or that SolidWorks electrical certification. Those can really give you an edge.
Well, like a stamp of approval, right?
Mhm.
Hey, I know what I'm doing.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about a question that a lot of people, kind of stumble on. How do you handle criticism or negative feedback?
Yeah, that one could be tough.
It is. But it's all about showing them your professionalism, your maturity, and your willingness to learn. They want to see that you can take feedback, in a constructive way.
Yeah.
And use it to improve.
So no getting defensive or making excuses.
Yeah.
I should focus on how I've used feedback to grow and develop my skills.
Exactly. You could say something like, I see feedback as a chance to learn and get better. I appreciate constructive criticism, and I always try to incorporate it into my work. Something like that.
Show them that you're coachable
Yeah.
and that you're committed to always improving. Okay, last question. And this one's always a little, I don't know, awkward. Do you have any questions for us?
Yes, the dreaded question. But look, this is your chance to turn the tables a bit. Show them that you're genuinely interested in the role, in the company, You've done your homework.
So instead of just saying, nope, I think you covered it all, I should come prepared with some thoughtful questions of my own.
Absolutely. Ask them about the company culture, their approach to sustainability, maybe specific projects that they're working on, things like that. It shows them that you're engaged, you're curious.
That's how I'm interviewing them a little bit, too.
Exactly. All right, well, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. What are some final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with? Anything else they should keep in mind?
Well, first of all, I think you've given some amazing advice, really helpful strategies for tackling those tough interview questions.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground, didn't we?
We did. We went from, like, nervous energy to, okay, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
I feel a lot more confident now.
That's what we like to hear. And don't forget about RoleCatcher. That's like your secret weapon, right?
Yeah.
Use their AI tools to, polish up your answers, practice your delivery so you can walk into that interview feeling like a total pro.
So go out there, everyone. Show them what you've got. Land that dream job.
Yeah.
And help build a brighter, more sustainable future.
Couldn't have said it better myself.